Welcome to Ill-Equipped History, where two best friends tell you about something that you may not have ever heard about from history. My name is Morgan, and I'm joined by my lovely, beautiful, radiant co-host, Emileigh.
Oh my God, you can't compliment me like that. I'm blushing.
Girl, I will always lift you up.
I don't know how to take compliments, so I'm going to hide now.
Well, don't you have good news to share with our listeners, Emileigh?
My living room's painted.
Yay!
Yay! Ceiling and walls. Woo. I will eventually get to the trim, but I haven't even decided what color I want, so I'm taking the wins where I can find them.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. My arms hurt today because I had the kids while I was painting today, which surprisingly went pretty well. They're getting to an age where I can do things like that. And I also just binge Disney movied the hell out of them. We watched both Moanas, both Frozens, the ending of Snow White, because we had started it the other night. We watched Cinderella and Encanto.
Children, focus your attention to the screen.
And there were a couple times where, like, my daughter would, I don't want to watch this. And she had a hissy fit. It was probably pre-lunch. She got hangry. And I don't want to watch this. And I'm like, okay, bye. And she'd go to her room. And then I'd, like, turn around and she's sitting on the couch just, like, staring at it. I'm like, sure you don't. So
the children yearn for the screens.
They yearn, and I'm like, normally I'm better about, like, screen time, but I was like, oh, I got shit to do today. Here, watch what you want. Have at it. Play the Switch.
We gotta do what we gotta do.
I don't care. Yeah, at one point, my daughter had the Switch and was watching a movie, and I'm like, double screen, cool, double occupied. It's fine.
That's funny.
But I think you have to tell us what you did this weekend.
Okay. Kyle and I with some friends and our little dog went camping, and we just had a really lovely time in the outdoors. We did some hiking. The girls I was with were super into, like, identifying plants, so we were like, what plant is that? What plant is that? And they're trying to forage some stuff. I think it's a little too early for foraging. Yeah. They brought some craft stuff, so I got to paint, and we were just doing, like, cute girly shit all weekend. It was great. And it was just a really nice time. Oh, and I didn't even tell you this, Emileigh. So we went to Land Between the Lakes, which is, like, Kentucky, like, West Kentucky, Tennessee area. Yeah. And there's a buffalo and elk prairie that you can go drive through and visit. And we'd been before, and we didn't really see a whole lot, but right at the gate, there were these giant turkeys ready to go, and we got to see some elk on the hill. And then we kept driving, and then we saw the bison. They were right in the middle of the road.
That's so cool.
It was really awesome. So we hung out there for probably like 30 to 45 minutes, just watching the bison do bison stuff.
That's awesome.
It got to the point where I think everyone was a little like, okay, like,
we saw them, let's go, yeah.
Yeah, so we had to, like, very carefully, because, some were, like, laying down in the middle of the road. We were not about to get out, and you just can't make one of them move, you know? What are you going to do?
They don't care about your car.
Absolutely not. So we all, because there was a line of probably about, like, 5 or 6 cars, and we just very carefully, like, went around very gently into, like, off the path slightly. Didn't hit any buffalo. None of them got scared. None of them gored any cars. So.
Oh, thank goodness. You did the right thing, because growing up in the Smoky Mountains, we know these folk from yonder states just be getting out of their cars and trying to pet the black bear. And don't do that. So don't pet the wildlife.
No, there were signs that said, like, because there are areas you can get out and, like, they have signs you can read and stuff, and they said, do not be out of your car if you are within 200 feet of one of these bison.
They'll kill you.
Yeah, honestly, I think 200 feet is too close myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure those fuckers are fast, and they've got very big horns that will gore you. And one of the bison that we passed looked like it had gotten in a fight of some kind, because it had like a very big wound on it, and we were just like, uh-oh.
Owie. Did I ever tell you about my mom and dad going on a date at Cades Cove? This was like before they were married, before I was born or anything. My mom and dad took a bucket of KFC fried chicken in their car with them on this date into Cades Cove, and they got out, and they were keeping their distance. Other people were not, to the bears that were in the area. And I guess the bear really wanted that fried chicken, and it like pinned my mom against a car.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and was like sniffing around, and then I guess realized that she was not the fried chicken and went on somewhere else.
I'm glad that it realized she wasn't fried chicken.
Yeah, I know. Dad was like, we're not bringing any more KFC in Cades Cove again.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I was almost not born because of a bear attack.
Wow. Well, I'm glad your mom was okay, and I'm very glad you were born, and you're here now.
Thanks. I'm glad you guys stayed in your car while going around bison.
One of our friends, they had their dog, who is she is part cattle dog and part Great Pyrenees.
And
she wanted out. She was like, let me herd those motherfuckers. Let me herd them.
They're all cows. Ripe for the herding. They're so ripe for the herding.
They're just standing there. All amok.
How dare they? They need to be gathered.
It was pretty funny. We're trying very hard to not like make her bark too much. She's a very good dog, so she only barked a couple times, and after a while she stopped caring. But we're like,
yeah,
don't jump out of the car.
Yeah, please. We're not coming after you. Sorry, you're on your own.
Yeah. But it was pretty cool, and it did not rain at all. It was supposed to, and thankfully it did not. It was really beautiful all weekend long, and all the greenery of like spring. Allergies weren't too bad. It was just a really nice weekend getaway. I just kept like sitting in my camping chair and just like looking at the fire and my friends and Kyle, and I was just like, this is nice. I love this. I'm so glad we did this. I'm so happy.
Nice. Every time I think of this is nice, I think of us floating away in the ocean. We were going to die happy, though.
And together. We're going to die happy and together.
Us with our boogie boards. This is nice.
I think we've told this story on the pod before.
I think
but
so.
We were on a trip with... It was several members
My family.
Of your family and like in-laws and stuff, and we had some refreshments. We had imbibed, and nothing crazy.
No, we were feeling good.
We were feeling good, and we had boogie boards, and we were boogie boarding for a little bit, and body surfing and stuff, and then we just Emily and I were just on our floats, our boogie boards, and we were just kind of like facing the horizon out to sea, and we were just chatting and riding the waves, and like, this is so nice. I'm so glad I'm here with you.
We just kept saying, this is so nice, over and over. Like, this is so nice.
And it was the ultimate vibes. Ultimate, just good, girly love vibes. And then we hear this yelling from over yonder.
Way over yonder. We're like, who's getting yelled at down the beach?
And we turn around, and Emily's mother-in-law, Nancy, is like, we see this tiny dot waving her arms at us, telling us to come back, and we didn't even realize we were like a mile out from the shore.
It took us so long to swim back into shore. Like, I think they were about to call the Coast Guard.
I mean, I don't think we were like really in a hurry to get back. Like, we were, moving, but we weren't like frantic, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
We were just kicking.
Yeah, I would have been more panicked had I not had the boogie board, but we had a flotation device, so like we were okay, and we were just
And we're
kind of
both
going.
pretty
I
strong
swear,
swimmers, and
it took us, I think, about 45 minutes to swim back
yeah.
to, and she was like, "I thought you were just ignoring me," and I was like, "No, we were just out there fighting,
Could not
just
hear.
having a good time." Yeah, this is nice.
This is nice. This is nice.
We should get matching tattoos that say "This is nice."
Oh my god, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh,
Okay.
God. Are your cheeks all sore from smiling?
My face hurts. My face.
Let's get into the skit for
Yeah.
today.
Let's do it. I have finally returned from my journey. Please, please give me water.
Yes, yes, of course. My brother. It's been years. We didn't think you would return.
Neither did I. I have traveled to the other side of India, but I found it. The text we were looking for.
Amazing. I can't believe it. We'll get this to our translators immediately. Please, please go rest.
Thank you. Thank you.
The scholar rushes to the translation center of the House of Wisdom, where it will be translated into Latin, Arabic, and Hebrew, then enter the vast libraries for others to read and study for centuries to come.
Okay, I'm excited. I have no idea what we're talking about today. Not a single clue.
Okay, well, good. So you'll have a lot to learn. So, Emileigh, have you ever heard of the Islamic Golden Age?
No.
This is a span of about 500 years of
Okay.
a golden age in the Islamic Empire where science and medicine and philosophy and art just boomed and actually laid the foundation for the Renaissance in Europe in the 1300s.
Cool.
And a lot of the developments that happened during this Islamic Golden Age is still utilized today.
Even cooler.
So I got inspiration for this video a long time ago. I've been wanting to do it for forever, but I can never really get a lot of information. And my source of inspiration is the History of the Entire World video by Bill Wirtz, and it's just this throwaway line about the Baghdad House of Wisdom. And I was like, I want to learn more about that. And turns out there is an entire golden age. So we're going to be talking about that today.
Cool.
So the lead up to the golden age, a lot of intellectual efforts like study and research and the progression of knowledge really declined after the fall of the Western Roman Empire in the 400s. This actually started the Dark Ages in the west of what is known as as the world at that time. So like Europe, mostly like Western Europe, was in the Dark Ages.
Okay.
But the East was spared. There was like an Eastern Roman Empire. They're a little bit more spared. And especially in the 600s, there was the spread of Islam all throughout the Middle East, North Africa. And I got this quote from History Skills. I have a lot of quotes today because some things I just could not put in my own words. Quote, by the time of the Umayyad and Abbasid dynasties, this empire stretched from Spain in the west to the borders of India in the east. So basically along the span of the continent, essentially.
Wow.
Was the Islamic Empire. And part of the location of this, it was smack dab in the middle of all these trade routes between Europe, Africa, and Asia.
Yeah.
So there was this transference of ideas, cultures, but especially wealth. You know, if you're in the middle of where all the trade is happening, you can capitalize on that. And
you're going to be doing okay. Yeah.
yeah. So the wealth that was brought into the Islamic Empire brought a lot of stability and prosperity to the empire. And when people don't have to fight for their lives every day and can be comfortable and have, living wages and enough food in their bellies, they can start working on other things like expanding knowledge and working on philosophy and understanding religion and stuff like that. Another important piece of this is that after the fall of the Western Roman Empire, a lot of things just kind of fell off. But in the Eastern Roman Empire, a lot of people still spoke Greek. Mm-hmm. And this allowed, especially more of those ancient Greek philosophies and ideas and wisdom to continue to be passed along. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people still spoke Greek. And as the Islamic Empire grew, there were more collaborations like Greek scholars. Another difference that this specific empire is called the Abbasid Empire or dynasty, which mm-hmm. lasted between 750 and 1258. And Abbasid was, I looked it up, but basically it's like the name of the caliph that started. And caliph is, in Islam, caliphs are said to be descendants from Muhammad. Mm-hmm. So they're basically as close to they're a very important religious leader. They're the emperor, they're the sultan, very important religious figurehead, all of the above.
Yeah.
And so this specific one started in 750. And what made this dynasty different from previous and subsequent dynasties is that there wasn't as much focus on conquest and expansion. I mean, they'd already done it, right. They're already from Spain to India. We're like, okay, we're good.
We are from coast to coast here.
Basically. And the official start of this golden age happened when the Abbasid dynasty moved the caliphate, or the capital mm-hmm. of the empire, from Damascus, Turkey, to Baghdad, Iraq.
Okay.
And Iraq, or Baghdad specifically, became the capital. And in Baghdad is where it all began. So the Abbasid caliph at this time was named Harun al-Rashid. And I'm going to do my best with these pronunciations, y'all. I don't speak Arabic. But the caliph, his son, al-Mamun, started the Beit al-Hikmah, or the Baghdad House of Wisdom. And this is where people from around the world would gather and discuss ideas from different areas around the world. They would translate documents from Greek, Persian, and Indian to other languages. It basically became a giant think tank where all of these different ideas came under one roof and became centralized. Lots of perspectives, cool. Analysis, and creativity stemmed from this as well, because you get a lot of ideas, you get a lot of inspiration, etc. This empire specifically just placed such a huge emphasis on knowledge and learning and education. Mm-hmm. So I don't really have... This episode's going to be a little different because I don't have a lineology of things that happened. Because it's over 500 years of this golden age. So I have broken my notes up into just different categories. So what happened, the different ideas that happened during the golden age. I'll get into just a little bit about the different areas of study, some notable figures who emerged that had these ideas, and then the eventual fall of this golden age. This House of Wisdom that was built in Baghdad, it was built, I think, in 762. And it had extensive libraries with, quote, medicine, astronomy, and mathematics texts. So, very, very big. Yeah. But it wasn't the only one. There was a few other ones. There was one in Cordoba, which is in modern-day Spain. I think there were some in Turkey, possibly, and just in other areas in the empire. There were also public libraries that were being built, schools, scholarly centers like universities. And these different houses of wisdom held hundreds of thousands of manuscripts.
Wow.
So extremely extensive. And that varied, of course, where you were.
Yeah.
Another thing that really helped, up to this point, people in like the Middle East had been using papyrus to write on. But they just had some Chinese prisoners who knew how to make paper.
Just happened to have.
In 751. So they actually started building their own paper mills after they got the secrets of paper from these Chinese prisoners.
Oh, I'm sure they were very kindly asked. And it was all very, very nicely done, right?
Consensual, no duress,
yeah,
I'm sure.
For sure.
And they also used pens instead of brushes, so they're able to be more accurate with their...
Yeah.
And I assume pens is more like probably quills or like styluses versus a paintbrush.
Now I'm curious, when was the first like pen invented? Well, this says 3200 BCE.
Wow.
What in the world? Okie dokie. Well, maybe it was a pen. Okay.
So, because they had paper, I got this quote from lumenlearning.com. They started, quote, assembly line methods of hand copying manuscripts to turn out editions far larger than any available in Europe for centuries.
Wow,
so basically
they did them?
Including 1001 Nights, which was written during this time. Which, if you've never heard of 1001 Nights, it is a collection of stories within a framing narrative of this woman named Shahrazad, who is the wife of the Sultan, and to stay alive, because he kills all of his wives the next morning, she keeps telling him stories that like end up on a cliffhanger, so she has to stay alive for one more night so the Sultan can hear the rest of the story. These stories have lasted this long, and actually again, I'm plugging that Myths and Legends podcast I listen to. Like, these stories are continuing to be shared. Like, that podcast has a lot of the stories from this collection.
That's so morbid, and like why the stories are being told. But also I'm intrigued.
And they're good stories, you know.
I bet they are.
It's not the same story over and over again. A lot of them are very compelling, and like you do want to hear the rest of them. So 1001 Nights has been around for hundreds of years, and it was written during the Golden Age.
That's cool.
I didn't write where I got this quote down. But, quote, some institutions founded during the Islamic Golden Age include the public hospital, psychiatric hospitals, public libraries, academic degree-granting universities, and the Astronomical Observatory as a research institute.
Like, in general, across all countries?
Just, in the empire during, like, the 500 years of the Golden Age, they had different hospitals, universities. Astronomy was really big. And these were like world-class institutions.
Wow. That is so impressive.
The University of Al-Qarawiyyin, I hope I pronounced that right, in Morocco is the oldest degree-granting university, which was founded in 859.
Huh? I feel like you're missing numbers. Did you say 859?
859.
And it's still around?
It's still around, and yeah. I always thought Oxford was the oldest university, but it's the University of Al-Qarawiyyin in Morocco.
Yeah, it's, I think Oxford... No, because Oxford's in Europe.
Mm-hmm. It's in England.
Yeah. Damn. When was Oxford founded?
I want to say either the 900s or the 1100s. 1096. I was right in.
Damn.
It was right in the
So
middle.
they beat it by like 200 years.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
Cairo was another big major center, especially in the 10th and 11th centuries. Al-Azhar Mosque is another one of the oldest universities in the world, founded in 970.
Wow.
So again, beating it out Oxford.
Holy shit.
Baghdad, Tripoli, I don't know how to pronounce that, Cairo, and Cordoba all had enormous libraries with between 600,000 to 3 million works inside.
Each one?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
Other libraries and centers of wisdom include the School of Nisibis, School of Edessa, the Imperial Library of Constantinople, and the Library of Alexandria.
Oh, that is my freaking Roman Empire. I think about that freaking library all the time.
I know.
Oh.
Not all
so
is without
sad.
hope, but it's really sad.
Yeah.
So one big component of these the houses of wisdom and the Golden Age in general is translations. Like that, in all my different research, like the translating documents was such an integral part of this, because it was, let's get knowledge from all these different cultures, especially ancient Greece and India. Those were the really big works that were translated into Arabic and then onto Hebrew and Latin. Which, and the translation efforts really picked up in the 8th century. They got stuff from Persia and India that had been unread for hundreds of years that were now translated and being appreciated and studied again.
So they, within this time frame, got things that were already hundreds of years old, translated them,
And shared them.
And shared them again. Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit, how old were those documents?
I know. Especially under Al-Mamun, who created the Baghdad House of Wisdom, there was this huge push to translate ancient Greek philosophers into Arabic, especially Aristotle and Plato. Those two names came up so much.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of work to unify ancient Greek philosophy with current Islamic principles at the time, which I think, just based on what I read, seemed to go pretty hand in hand. And there was this group of people called Nestorian Christians, and they would translate Greek documents into Syriac and then Arabic, which were then translated to Persian, Turkish, Hebrew, Latin, other languages.
Wow.
So now you have like Christians and Muslims like working together to really, Jews and all kinds of people. This wasn't just, only Muslims. It was everyone could come to these different houses of wisdom and learn and study and research and develop techniques and principles and ideas.
Oh, that's so cool. Open door policy.
A real golden age.
I mean, that's true definition golden age.
Yeah. The impact on the world of these translated documents and the spread of this knowledge. I mean, people would take what they learned and spread it across the known world at the time. And then when you get into the 11th century, European scholars would go and translate these texts into Latin and bring them back to Europe. And then they would study the text there. So again, just continuing to bring all this knowledge. And it's probably right. I mean, 11th century, I'm sure, as Oxford was becoming a more established university, they were doing stuff there. So the next few sections are just about just the different fields of study. I'll go into a little bit more in some of these areas when I talk about specific people that helped develop these, but just general medicine was a really big field of study. A lot of progress was made in the field of medicine at this time. They incorporated Greek and Indian methodologies into medicine, created hospitals. They developed eye cataract surgery.
What?
That was very effective.
What?
Mm-hmm.
I'm shooketh. Okay.
And the book, The Canon of Medicine, which was, again, written in this time, influenced Middle Eastern and European medical practices for centuries. For hundreds of years, medicine was being used on this book that was written during this time, which, again, incorporated all kinds of medical practices from all these different cultures.
All I can think about right now is how divided, obviously, we're not going to get into politics or anything, but how divided this world is right now. Mm-hmm. And this just goes to show how much we can accomplish when we're not divided, when we just accept each other's differences and like can come together and collaborate. We might not agree on everything, but we can collaborate and like think of the leaps and bounds that they did during this time.
I know, it's crazy. And Emily, when you look at the notes in the second picture on the right from the top, that eye diagram that you see, this is an eye diagram from 1200.
I've been staring at it. It's so accurate. It's got the veins coming out the back. It's got the eye shape. It's got all the little...
the optical nerve.
Yes, those things. I don't want to know how they figured that out. Like cutting into an eyeball. Ugh. But you know what? Good on them.
One of the biggest hospitals that was created is called the Jundishapur Hospital. And, quote, 8 generations of the Nestorian Buktishu family served as private doctors to caliphs and sultans between the 8th and 11th centuries at this hospital.
Wow.
And that's from lumenlearning.com. So 8 generations for 300 years, this hospital was operating.
Wow. Most hospitals don't last that long nowadays.
No. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine if we were doing medical practices from 300 years ago?
From the 1700s? Holy shit.
And I mean, just put this in perspective. Like, can you imagine if between 1500 and today, if we've had nothing but peace and prosperity and just learning and spreading of knowledge and wisdom?
I'd be less stressed, that's for damn sure.
Same.
Listen, this golden age it lasted twice the age of our country.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
And think of all the shit the U.S. has done in its very short time.
We're kind of assholes sometimes.
Yeah.
Not all the time, obviously, but sometimes.
And we have covered some of those times here on this podcast.
We have.
Talking about philosophy, I don't get too deep into philosophy because I don't understand it, but there were 2 major philosophies that emerged. There was falsafa, which is based on Greek philosophy and ideals, and kalam, which is based on Islamic principles and beliefs. Mm-hmm. So that was that kind of ideas operating at the time. Going to mathematics, a lot of techniques from China, Greece, and India were combined. At one point, the, quote, forerunner to the modern bank check was created.
What? They're living in 2025. Like,
yeah. Well, maybe not. Maybe like 1995 because we don't use bank checks.
That's true. Okay, so they were living in 95. 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. Greek, Roman, Persian, Chinese, Indian, Egyptian, and Phoenician knowledge was combined, and mathematical concepts such as algebra and algorithms were developed by Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. Khwarizmi. That one was tough.
So,
and I talk about him again later.
Muhammad is the reason that a lot of people get really mad in high school because of stupid algebra. Thanks, dude.
He's basically like the father of algebra.
Wow.
And actually we get the word algorithm from his name.
Wow.
His Latinized name was algorithmi.
You know what? Good for him. What a smart dude.
And I have there's a statue. If you scroll down,
What is he
there's
staring
a statue
at?
of him.
Well, I mean,
It looks like a paper of some sort.
he's like scrunched
There's like a
it.
scroll.
Like he's squished a scroll in his hand. And the way he's sitting, I'm waiting for him to just like blow into it like a horn. I'm sure it means something. I'm sure he's probably thinking real hard, like that one statue of like the thinker.
Yeah.
His robes are very impressive, the way they're carved.
No, it's a beautiful statue.
It's a beautiful statue.
Like, it looks like he's wearing fabric.
That always blows my mind,
Very
how they do that.
drapey.
Yeah. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, I love sculpture. Every time I go to an art museum, I'm like, where are the sculptures? I need to see the sculptures.
My toxic trait is that I look at that and I'm like, yeah, I could probably master that if I tried hard enough. Knowing probably no, you can't, but I would give it a go.
I'm imagining that scene from SpongeBob where Squidward is trying to teach SpongeBob like how to do art.
Yeah, and he's like the circle, and this is how you do this, and SpongeBob just like hits it one time and it falls apart and it's perfect. Yes.
A perfect masterpiece.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
That's how you would do it.
Oh, I love that episode.
I call it bold and brash, and I call it belongs in the trash.
Is there a situation where SpongeBob doesn't fit? I don't think so.
No.
I think you could find a quote for every situation from SpongeBob.
I agree.
Yeah.
Moving on, just briefly, physics and astronomy were also really big areas of study. They built observatories, invented the astrolabe and the quadrant.
Cool.
And I have a picture of an astrolabe that was built at the time. And of course, astronomy was used to help with navigation and create a calendar. I think I have more. Let me make sure. Oh, I do have more about the calendar later.
Okay.
With a very talented astronomer. The arts were also really big at this time. Again, I already mentioned 1001 Nights was written. One thing, due to Islamic beliefs, depicting human figures in art was forbidden. I don't think it was that way the entire time, but it was at some point. Mm-hmm. And so artists use what's called arabesque, which are leaves and flowers. And I have a picture of arabesque. It's very like detailed, intricate designs, tessellations or geometric patterns. And calligraphy was developed during this time as well.
It's so cool.
It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Architecture and tile work also not developed, but kind of mastered during this time, influencing the construction and decoration on mosques, tombs, and other major buildings. I got this quote from Lumen Learning. This one's a little bit longer, but people used, quote, quasi-crystalline geometry, which would not be discovered for 500 more years. And quasi-crystalline geometry, it's almost like fractals.
Okay.
Quote, this art used symmetric polygonal shapes to create patterns that can continue indefinitely without repeating. These patterns have even helped modern scientists understand quasi-crystals at the atomic levels.
So they were just out here decorating with like science?
Yeah. Basically using like fractals 500 years before fractals were even like a thing, apparently.
Casually just like, hey, look at this cool pattern I came up with. Oh my God.
Okay. So now I'm going to talk about some notable figures. I, of course, cannot talk about everyone from 500 years of a golden age, but these were people who were foundational in certain areas of study. So we'll go back to Al-Khwarizmi. I hope I'm saying that right. He was from Persia, and again, he developed early concepts of algebra. He, quote, introduced systematic methods for solving linear and quadratic equations, which were then revolutionary in the study of mathematics. And algebra provided a tool that enabled precise calculations impacting fields such as engineering and astronomy. And those are from historyskills.com. He also developed the number system using Arabic numerals, which are the numerals that we use.
What?
The numbers.
He made up numbers?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are Arabic numerals.
What?
And he developed this system because what was used at the time were Roman numerals, and they're very clunky. You know, you have to keep adding on to
yeah, they're weird.
Like the V's and the I's and the X's and the L's and the C's. And so he created these Arabic numerals to be more concise in representing numbers.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I've never gotten the hang of Roman numerals.
Me neither. There was a Syrian astronomer named Abu Abdullah al-Battani, and he, quote, refined measurements of the solar year and the length of the seasons. So that was one of his areas of study. It was like time. Mm-hmm. His calculations for a solar year were off by only a few minutes.
What?
Compared to modern day calculations.
And he's just doing it by hand.
Mm-hmm.
No.
He also contributed to studying the path planets take when they orbit the sun and how they're irregular and elliptical.
I'm convinced I would have never contributed anything in this golden age. A good baked good every now and then.
Hey, these guys had to eat.
They're so smart. It's intimidating.
This man could accurately predict eclipses.
No!
His research was so solid, Copernicus was influenced by al-Battani's research. And if you haven't heard of Copernicus, he was the astronomer. I think he was Italian, and he created the solar model that we use today. And he got his ideas from al-Battani.
People like this can't be real. Like, I just... Sorcery.
There was a philosopher named Al-Farabi. He was also known as the second teacher after Aristotle, who had the idea that, quote, philosophical truth and religious revelation could coexist.
Okay.
Which is good.
I'm here for it.
That's from historyskills.com. There was a person named Ibn Sina, and he revolutionized medicine, specifically, quote, anatomy, pharmacology, and clinical medicine that could, quote, explain diseases, treatments, and medicines.
Wow.
Also from historyskills.com. He noted contagion was a thing, specifically in tuberculosis, and emphasized how important cleanliness is in surgery.
That's what I thought you were about to say. And I was literally about to be like, you mean to tell me, if you guys listen to our medicine bonus episode, hundreds of years later, we're just now, they just decided in the other parts of the world that, like, maybe we should be clean and not put milk in people's blood. Like,
wash our hands every now and then.
And it was already established had you just listened to this dude. Oh my God.
Yes. He wrote a book called Kitab al-Shifa, or the Book of Healing, which blended philosophy, medicine, and other sciences in a huge encyclopedia that was used for hundreds of years after it was written.
Well, they should have taken some of those across to wherever. Wow.
I agree. Jabir ibn Hayyan is known as the father of chemistry. He was the first documented scientist to isolate chemical compounds, document how to purify substances, and methodized crystallization, distillation, and sublimation.
I'm not even shocked at this point.
I know, I saw your face and you're like, yeah, yep.
Sure. I just, it's hard to believe. Had you told me this, was in the Victorian era or, 16th or even 16th or 17th century, I would have been like, that's really cool. This ended in what, 1250 something?
Mm-hmm.
This is medieval. Like,
yeah. Before the medieval period.
Before the medieval period.
This was still in the Dark Ages in Europe. And the Dark Ages were literally the Dark Ages. Like, there was no kind of... People were just dying.
Yeah.
All the time.
I don't even have words. Like, now I'm stuttering. Because this is so old.
It's so old. It's so old. And, like, the fact that, like, so many things came from this time. And just in a little bit, we'll talk about the decline of the Golden Age. But, I mean, just imagine if it hadn't ended. We'd be in, like, one of those sci-fi, like, utopias, maybe.
Yeah.
If scientific progression had been able to continue like this.
Oh, my God. Oh, think of all the things we've just missed out on because it's hard to get the ball rolling again when you stop the ball.
Yeah. And it is really hard to have this kind of stability that this empire had at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, when everyone is happy, fed, and healthy,
yeah,
amazing things can happen.
Yeah. And, we're saying that in a very broad statement, but obviously there were things happen. It wasn't like a fantasy land. There were, some people didn't like other people. That's just human nature. But, like, as a whole, when the greater good is good, then you can do, yeah.
When the goal and when the idea is not material wealth or financial gain or conquest, and it's just let's learn everything that we can.
Yeah.
And that is like what an entire empire is built upon. Clearly amazing things can happen.
Yeah. Wow.
And I don't know all the nuances of this specific empire because I was just focusing on the Golden Age. I don't know anything about like what like systems of government were used at the time. I mean, clearly it was still like an empire.
Yeah.
I don't know how, because it was multiple, caliphs were ruling, and of course, and was it like a police state? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the form of government that was used. So that also should be taken into consideration.
Of course. Of course.
There was I guess he is technically maybe like qualified as or quantified as a biologist, but he's named Al-Jahiz, and he wrote the Book of Animals, which was incredibly important in the history of biology and was a precursor to Charles Darwin's, quote, survival of the fittest. Mm-hmm. Al-Jahiz's philosophy was struggle for existence.
Okay.
So he, again, like this idea had already been documented like 500 years at least before Charles Darwin.
A different twist on it where I feel like Charles Darwin, like when I think of like survival of the fittest, I think of like a buff animal that's just like, dominating over the others. I forgot his name, but he said it in a way of like everyone's just trying to survive and come up instead of, Darwinism was almost
only
like
the strongest live.
Yeah. Same concept, but turned different. I like that.
Yeah. And then the last person I will talk about, her name is Fatima al-Fihri. She and her family were exiled from Tunisia to Morocco, and she established the Al-Qarawiyyin University in 859, which is the, quote, oldest existing continually operating educational institution in the world.
Wow. Damn.
Go Fatima.
Go Fatima. And what's the place called again? Sorry.
Al-Qarawiyyin University.
Okay.
And I don't think it was... So, I know I had talked about... Where was it? Oh, that's it. University of Qarawiyyin, the oldest degree-granting university in Morocco in 1859.
So she started it.
It's spelled very differently.
Gotcha.
I didn't even recognize it was the same place because it's spelled so differently in between the different sources that I found.
Love that.
Like one has a Q, one has a K.
Oh.
And like just everything is different. But yeah, she started the oldest university in the world.
That's incredible. Oh, and it was done by a woman. Hell yeah.
Yeah. She was the only woman that came up in my research. So I wanted to make sure I noted her.
Absolutely.
Okay. So unfortunately, the Golden Age does come to an end.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about how this started. So some of the sources I read said that things weren't perfect the entire time.
Of course.
And one of the things that kind of started the eventual decline actually happened in 800. So only after about like 50 years of the Golden Age beginning. Harun al-Rashid, who is the caliph that started the Golden Age, he gave almost complete sovereignty to his governor in Tunisia. And because he was like, yeah, like you can basically like rule your own little place. And as the Golden Age continued, this kept happening where different governors were given almost complete sovereignty. And the issue with this is that it started decentralizing power in the empire. It started being spread more throughout and gave more authority to the different governors, but it decreased the overall authority of the caliph.
Right.
And then in the 12th century, the Crusades were going on. But this was actually... I didn't see any like super negative impact for the Islamic Empire, but this did start to pull Europe out of the Dark Ages because there was more interaction between European and Islamic cultures, the spread of ideas. Europeans were going back to Europe after coming to the Middle East for the Crusades and be like, hey, I learned a bunch of stuff, and then started pulling people out of the Dark Ages.
That's really cool that the Crusades actually something so kind of not that great.
Horrible.
Yeah. They were able to take that knowledge back and help, because Lord knows how long it would have lasted had they not been able to do that.
Right. Most of the sources I read consider the official end of the Golden Age occurring in 1258, when the Mongolian Empire invaded and ransacked the Baghdad House of Wisdom and other intellectual houses. And this continued. Libraries across the empire were destroyed. Then, because of these crises, the governments became less strong, more fractured. Then trade routes started shifting because of the invaders and all the violence occurring. A lot of the previous cities that had been very wealthy along these trade routes started being more bypassed. Which decreased money and funds for just research. Now people were starting to struggle more to survive. But it didn't like end on this date. Like even after the sack of the Baghdad House of Wisdom, there were still developments being made in other areas, like the Maragay Observatory in Iran. That was built after. But over time, the Islamic Empire started becoming even more fractured. Like the Egyptians started doing their own thing. The Ottoman Empire started up in Turkey. And now, like, as there's more fractures going on, there's less focus on intellectual study, more focus on defending borders, retaining power, retaining land.
You only have so many resources, and those have to be allocated to defense instead of learning now.
Right.
Yeah.
And it seems, in one source I found from lumenlearning.com, again, it's the end of the Golden Age is widely attributed to 1258, or it also came to an end in 1492 with the, quote, Christian Reconquista of the Emirate of Granada and Al-Andalus, the Iberian Peninsula. or basically like the House of Wisdom in modern day Spain, fell with the.
So that was the last one?
I think so. Like, because there was a Spanish Inquisition.
Yeah.
And like the Christians conquered Spain.
Right.
Which was primarily Muslim in 1492. And that was like, I think, the last stronghold of the Islamic Golden Age.
Right.
But the texts that did survive would continue to educate scholars. They were taken to other universities, other places of intellectual study. And the texts that were translated from Arabic actually were foundational to the Renaissance.
Wow.
And then in the 1300s, the Renaissance in Europe, which literally means rebirth.
Yeah.
Because they were in the Dark Ages, the rebirth. Now there's a lot more focus on art and study and intellectual progress.
I love Renaissance art. It's very, like, you go from Dark Ages that nobody can draw an animal to save their life. And then you get Renaissance and everything's so pretty and flowery. And it's like, y'all did a big switch.
Anatomically correct.
Yeah. The dogs look like dogs now.
Yeah, and the people look like people. Babies still don't look like babies, but that's fine. It'll come.
Yeah. That was, yeah.
And that's what I have on the Islamic Golden Age.
This was mind-blowing, to say the least. Oh my God. Who would have thought that, like, most of our modern, like, ideals would stem from something that happened, like, 1,000 years ago?
I know. It's so crazy to think about, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, starting over 1,000 years ago, because it was 800 something.
758.
758. So, like...
Or 750. 750, basically.
So, like, 1,200 years ago. I am shooketh. Wow. The Library of Alexandria. And all of them. God, I didn't know there were like a network of them.
Yeah, there was, and I don't even think I named all of them. Those are the ones that just came up. There could have been more that just weren't listed.
Right.
That were lost to history.
Wow.
I mean, can you imagine a library with 3 million works in it?
Hand-done works.
Yeah. All translated and written by hand.
That's, like, it's, I laid the little nugget on the kids the other day that we were watching Snow White, and I was like, every single one of these shots were hand-drawn, and they thought that was, like, the most impressive thing. It is very impressive.
It absolutely is, yeah.
That is nothing compared to the 3 million hand-translated documents, books, scrolls, whatever. Those poor paper makers. Like,
I know.
Wow. I'm speechless. It's like bad podcasting because I don't know what to say. Like,
see, and like this is why I was like, how the fuck do I write a skit about this golden age? Like, and it didn't feel right to just like pick one of these people, be like, this is me inventing algebra, because I would have done a poor job at representing the amazing like works of these people.
He came up with the numbers. With the numbers that the entire world uses now. Because fuck Roman numerals. It's fine. Just gonna go lay in bed and have a crisis now. Just thinking about how old this is. Like, the nauseous was there for like half the thing.
Yeah. I had no idea what I was getting myself into when I started researching this. And I was like, what do you mean the quadratic formula is like 1,200 years old? What do you mean?
It's been torturing us.
What do you mean?
It's been torturing us for 1,200 years. See, that's how they need to approach math. Just tell these kids how freaking old it is. And it's like,
this shit old as fuck, y'all. You're gonna learn.
it's been working for 1,200 years. Would you just learn it? Please.
A man in the desert accurately calculated a solar year with, like, his hands and a compass.
Yeah, I know.
Within a few minutes.
I know you don't care. But in the off chance you need to know, could you just learn it? Please. Pass the test. My God. This is why I shouldn't have been a teacher.
Oh, no way. I would be too busy geeking out to make sure that standards were actually followed.
I would probably be the worst teacher. I did actually, when I was a kid, want to be a teacher. But I would either be like the coolest teacher to the kids, but like the worst when it came to like actually, or I don't know. I think I'd be a really cool professor because I don't have to follow any standards and we could just all geek out together.
I don't know if I, like, because we've talked about it before. Like, there's so many things that we've talked about, like, growing up in school that are either horrifically abridged, because you can't talk about everything in this detail, or it's just wrong. You know?
Just lied
like, there's
to.
definitely, and not with any, like, ill intent from teachers, but because the curriculum was incorrect. Or maybe not even incorrect, but just misrepresented.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I always go back to, and the Native Americans voluntarily gave up their land. I read that in a textbook in middle school. Mm-hmm. Like, that is not true. We need to be teaching the kids the true history.
Right. And that's the problem I come into, is that I wouldn't be able to just go along with these misrepresentations or lies. I'd be like, no, y'all gonna learn.
Y'all gonna learn today. Okay. Us in a like middle school history lesson. All right. Just a couple things you need to know. First thing, fuck Christopher Columbus. Yeah. Screw that guy.
We're not celebrating his holiday anymore.
No, we're not. Second thing, the Native Americans were forced. They liked where they lived. They actually were here first. Like they grew up here. We just kind of came over and took their shit and killed them all with smallpox blankets. Yes. We'll get to that next month.
We committed genocide, and we're not going to shy away from it.
Yeah. Yes, little Jimmy in the back. What is genocide? We killed them all.
Mass extermination. That's what that means.
Everybody leaving history class crying.
I'm not patriotic anymore. Good.
And you know what's another thing that I don't feel like they were very clear about? And I was talking to somebody about this the other day, that when we're taught about World War II and the Holocaust, when we're taught about them as if they are the same thing, and that everyone knew what was that the Holocaust was happening while World War II was happening. And I was like an adult before it really clicked that it was a secret up until the very end. And I'm like, I feel like that is a very important distinction that needs to be made. Like, it was done in the background.
I think people knew that, like, concentration camps were happening and, like, work camps were happening. Because, I mean, you can't just hide hundreds and thousands of people being carted off to some mysterious place. But I don't think people, even, like, people who supported, you know, Nazi Germany, people who identified as Nazis, knew the horrors of what was actually happening and, like, the exterminations that were happening. I think they're like, oh yeah, they're just being sent to some other place and they're mining the fields and creating
and there was propaganda that they were, like, happy and fine.
So because no one wants, not like most people don't want to think their country is committing horrors.
But when you find out that your country is committing horrors, it is very important not to ignore those horrors, even in generations to come.
Yes.
You could be like, I did not participate in that, but I do know it happened, and I do not condone.
Yes.
So,
Right.
yeah.
Isn't it crazy how time is just a flat circle?
It's a flat, wow.
Just repeats itself again and again and again and again.
Again and again and again.
And if you feel some type of way about us talking about this, we've said it several times. This is not a political podcast, but history is political.
By nature, I mean, we can't not bring up some things. Like, obviously, we don't want to go down your throat with politics. We don't want to, try to sway you one way or the other. We have our feelings, and most of 99% of the time, we just try to stay neutral in a lot of things. And, it's not a political podcast. It's a history podcast.
But there are very important lessons to be learned from history.
Exactly. Yeah.
That I think, in my opinion, are being ignored.
Yeah.
Or people are trying to suppress. And I think it's important that we talk about.
Yeah. You cannot
history.
turn a blind eye to everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's my soapbox moment.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Should we do socials?
Let's do socials.
Okay. So if you like this, you can find us on Facebook,
Ill-Equipped History Podcast group and page.
Instagram,
At Ill-Equipped History.
TikTok,
At Ill-Equipped History.
Gmail,
Ill-Equippedhistory at gmail.com.
and Patreon.
Patreon.com/Ill-Equippedhistory.
Woo, woo, woo. $5 a month gets you bonus episodes and stickers.
Woo! Do it.
I still need to send off some stickers to some people, so I'm so sorry. We love you, and life is crazy. So, sorry.
It's just the two of us.
Yeah. And
Sorry.
this is the staff.
Yeah. We are the employees working for free.
There is no HR to complain to.
No.
So, if you find yourself in the golden age of anything, I guess find your niche and get good at something. Yeah.
Stay in your golden age. Stay there.
Oh my God. That could be a good tattoo too. In my golden age. That's cute.
That is cute.
It's cute. We should at least get t-shirts.
I like that.
Okay.
Our 85th t-shirt idea.
Yeah. None of them have come to fruition.
One of these days.
One of these days. Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.